Hi folks, Jack Spirko here with another episode of Miyagi Mornings. Miyagi Mornings episode 109 today. Right out of the gate, I'm going to announce some more changes to what's going on. I tried a structural change in my podcast and incorporating Miyagi Mornings into the podcast as a weekly edition instead of like a bonus on the Saturday. I'm going to keep doing that, but the way things worked out so far this week were not smooth. They were quite bumpy. So what's going to happen is this week, the recap will be on Monday and Friday. That's not going to be an ongoing thing. Next week, we're going to go to a schedule of Monday through Thursday, typical podcast, and then Miyagi Mornings drops on Friday, the recap podcast of the whole week's editions, all in one, audio only. So that's how that's going to work. I'll explain that more today on our podcast for today. Which will end up being the expert counsel show on a Thursday instead of a Friday. And that's how it's going to be going forward. And I'll explain it more in depth if you're interested in today's edition of the Survival Podcast at thesurvivalpodcast.com. All right, so today we're going to talk about cryptocurrency, and we're going to talk about it from a standpoint of, are most cryptocurrencies worthless? Worthless, useless, have no future, call it anything you want. This all stems from a article that was on, I think, Crypto Potato. It was shared on our MeWe Crypto group, the Practical Cryptocurrency Discussion group. And the chairman of the St. Louis Federal Reserve said most cryptocurrencies are worthless. And it caused a lot of triggering in some people about how this guy's a moron and doesn't know what he's talking about. These are people that didn't read the article. The most interesting thing about this article is the acknowledgement of how many cryptocurrencies are not worthless. You realize people like this guy and his ilk and people from Goldman Sachs and other investment management services, etc., investment banks, what have you, have been calling all cryptocurrency worthless since the very beginning, and they've slowly begun to change their tune. And so in that article, this guy, and there's a link, you can read it if you want to, but he acknowledges that cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Bitcoin and Litecoin are probably going to be around for a long time and have a certain utility, which that's massive progress in that space. That means they're beginning to accept reality. But he's not wrong. Most cryptocurrencies are worthless. I am one of the biggest advocates of cryptocurrency on the planet. And I agree, most are worthless. And a little lesson we have from, what we call democracy, 51% would be most. 51% would be most. Anything greater than the median would be most. So if we had 10 people in a room, and 6 of them preferred apple pie to cherry pie, then we could say of that group, most of the people preferred cherry pie. So the threshold to most is simply more than half. And he ain't wrong, and it's a lot more than half. There are something like 10,000 cryptocurrency projects. We don't need 10,000 currencies. The key is which ones aren't worthless. Which ones do have long-term legs? Which are the ones that we should be investing in? And I have 6 questions that I have been suggesting people ask themselves since the very beginning, at least my very beginning. I go back to about 2014, early 2014 that I've been in the space. And none of these have changed over time. I keep looking for more, but I haven't found more than these 6. The first question is the most important question. And it was the first one to make it on my radar, and I started asking way back in the dark ages. What is the utility of the coin or the token? What does it do? What is its purpose? Because the answer better be, well, it's better than Bitcoin. That's not it. That was an answer when Litecoin came out. It was a good answer when Litecoin came out because of the next question, right? But today, that's not a good answer. That's not a good answer because usually when somebody says that, what they mean is it's better for buying a scone and a coffee. We have plenty of shit that does that, so that's not an answer. What problem does it solve that a current coin or token does not solve, or how does it solve that problem better? Because the next question is, what does it do that an alternative doesn't already do? Especially an established alternative. Like when you say, well, we're more private or we're whatever, like, are you really? And if you're about the same as something that's heavily established already, I'm not real impressed. If you really are better, then maybe we need to take a look at what you're doing. But we got to get there first. What do you do? And does anybody already do this that's already established that you're competing with who's already light years ahead of you? right? Do you have some advantage that is not already intrinsic to the market with somebody else? You got to get through those. And then the third one. The third one is really, really important. It kind of wraps into the first two. And that is there an added utility with the project's blockchain itself? Does the blockchain do something that mitigates the fact that, well, this new currency is kind of cool, and it does some cool things, and it works really well. There's other things that do the exact same thing. Here would be an example. How about Odyssey Library, right? LBC coin. If you brought me LBC coin and said, well, it basically uses the same algorithm as Bitcoin, and you mine it the same way, and it does the same stuff, and it has like 200 confirmations instead of 6, and so it actually takes a little longer in some instances to be fully confirmed, but it works really, really good, and it's inexpensive, and it works great. I'd say, so what? Big whoop. But if you integrate it into a platform like Odyssey, where fans can tip creators using a native currency, and they can actually onboard with it there, having never used a cryptocurrency in their life, simply through their actions and activities, acquire some, get a feel for it, learn how it works, start sending it, using it, paying for content with it, because you can either tip a creator, or I could do like a documentary and sell it for $4.95. But instead of selling it on, like Vimeo or something like that, I could sell it on Library, and you take LBC token for it. And even though it's a public blockchain, it's really, really anonymous because there's no KYC or anything. Okay. So now this currency, which is basically a Bitcoin clone with more units, that works really well, but it's basically a Bitcoin clone. Now it has a utility, and now because it is its own blockchain, it does its own thing, and the people that built it are the same people that built the blockchain that runs the Odyssey platform, and I know the integration is going to be seamless and always so, because the same people are doing the same work. Now I'm interested. You see how that works? So even though the token itself is not truly unique in of itself, it's not earth-shattering, it's not life-changing by itself, the utility of the blockchain. Real short, ARC is another currency I really, really like. It's a proof of stake. It's a clone of a currency called LISC. It really ain't that much different than LISC. I think you can actually hold LISC in an ARC wallet. That's how the same they are. It's a proof of stake. You can earn a return by holding it and delegating your stake to a delegate. Great. Lots of other people do that. But they build a blockchain that allows corporations, companies, entities that want to create their own blockchain to point, click, make a blockchain. Okay, so you can take their blockchain and use it if you want to use blockchain for, let's say, inventory management of a large corporation, and save thousands of hours in programming and spit out a prototype that only needs tweaking from there on to then complete your project. And then you build a marketplace based on that. Now I'm interested. So in those two cases, you have two currencies that aren't really that amazing in and of themselves, but the blockchain is the magic. Okay. The next question I want to know, what is the team like it? What is the team behind it like? What kind of team is there? What's going on? And there's two things I want to know. I want to know what the developer team is like, right? If the developers are solid, I know this project is going to keep being modified. It's going to keep being made better. When there's a problem, it's going to be corrected. They're going to keep doing what's necessary to keep it at the leading edge of things in a space where there's always somebody trying to take you down. That's what I love about crypto. It is capitalism personified, guys. Because you come out with something and somebody can literally take everything you've done and start adding to it if you stop adding. So I want to know those developers are solid. The other thing I want to know is they have solid marketing. One of the most important things to a cryptocurrency's longevity and success is adoption. You've got to get people, and you've got to get companies, and you've got to get entities to adopt it and use it. So there's some people that kind of poo-poo on marketing or cryptocurrency. Oh, we're just a project with a bunch of techno geeks and whatever. You know what? You're going to get your ass handed to you. There is no more first mover advantage. That went away all the way back with Satoshi. Bitcoin has first mover advantage. You're never going to have first mover advantage. I don't care if you come up with some radical new way to do things. You are still a little tiny guppy in a great big ocean. And lots of other fish trying to eat you. So you need to have a combination of solid marketing and solid dev. That's why I like Algorand. Because you've got, they raised a shitload of money. They've got an incredible team of advisors. They've got an incredible tech team. And they've got a good, solid marketing team. Right? And it's a proof of stake. And, you can earn a return and all. And I'm not saying it's going to shoot to the moon or anything and buy me a Lambo. But I threw a few $1,000s in it because it met these tests. The next one I want to know is, what is the supply control like? This is something I'm not a fan of with Algorand, but it's solid enough elsewhere that I've overlooked it. When somebody has a cryptocurrency that's going to, create 1 billion units, you just got to do a little math on what that makes for a market cap. What's the best case scenario of the market cap? That's the total units times the price equals the total value of shares or coins or tokens in circulation. If you don't know that, boy, you need to learn some basic financial literacy before you go dabbling in this space and get your ass kicked. But when you do that and you're like, well, shit, this thing could have the market cap of Bitcoin and it'd be worth $1, you realize that it's a real hard road. One of the things that Bitcoin did was place a hard cap on a currency, something that the central banks of the world do not have the discipline to do. And it handled needing more with the ability to fractionalize. So they did what's called a cap and fractionalized currency. It's brilliant. It's a deflationary currency. It's why cryptocurrency has created savers in a generation that doesn't know how to save their ass from their hand. Right? I mean, literally like the spending generation. That is the millennials. They're the spenders. All of a sudden they're saving. Because your currency, the US dollar, and all the Western civilization currencies, and all the civilizations currencies across the world, all the national currencies, are designed to create spending. That's what an inflationary currency does. It causes people to spend it. If you want to incentivize saving and investing long term, you need a hard currency. Cryptocurrencies can be hard currencies, or they can be incredibly soft currencies. And knowing how much total units there ever can be, what is the halving? In other words, most cryptocurrencies have a cap. They produce a shitload. They're inflationary in the beginning to get it in circulation, and then it begins to halve every 4 years, 3 years, whatever. It halves and halves and halves. So there's less and less new currency produced, and people have to make do with what's on the market. I want to know that. It is not the end-all, be-all, but I'm very interested in that metric making a final decision. And then the last one is, will anyone really care in the long run about this crypto? Because it can be a solid project with good utility, but if people don't care, or if it's going to lose, it's going to crash and burn. Here's an example. I'm so freaking old, I remember VCRs. And I remember watching these commercials that would come on TV, and you could get this magical movie or whatever, and you can get VHS or BetaMax. BetaMax? What the hell is a BetaMax? BetaMax was basically a DVD, another outdated technology before DVDs, but it was like as big as a record, like an LP. What's an LP? Go ask your grandparents, right? So it was this huge disc you stuck in. You know what? It worked. It never, like VCRs used to get the tapes all crinkled and wrapped up and break, and then you'd lose your movie. But you know what I never saw? Back when Blockbuster was a store you went to and you rented movies that had a sticker on them that said, "Be kind, rewind, kids." That's because they were tapes. There was never a Betamax in there. It didn't get adopted. No one cared. There were a few geeky nerds that pointed out, hey, the picture quality's better. No one gave a shit. Overall, it was a better technology than VCRs. But you could tell right away it wasn't going to happen. It was the Zune in the battle between the iPod and Microsoft Zune. It was relegated to archaic status the day it came out. You need to look at cryptocurrencies and say, is this thing going to be archaic? Because what it's going to be is worthless. There's a movie that probably everybody on the planet's seen by now, right? Home Alone. Remember, Kevin, right? All right, and the burglars are robbing the house. That movie's so old that one of the things they're excited about being able to rob, when Joe Pesci's character is talking to, I can't think of the other guy's name, about what's in the houses, like high quality goods, man, like VCRs. You can't give away a VCR to be used as a doorstop today. Even freaking hipsters don't want VCRs. As far as I know, anyway. Who the hell knows what hipsters really want? I think Pabst Blue Ribbon beer and cheap sunglasses, right? Like, it's just not valid. Well, if you're talking about a digital currency and it goes the way of the Betamax or the VHS, it's dead. So you need something that has longevity. This is why I love Bitcoin. Bitcoin has basically a financial reserve status at this point. And people can get triggered about that and believe it's a lie and it's not really digital gold or whatever. And the people that say it's not digital gold don't even know what people mean when they say it's digital gold. They have no idea what somebody saying that who's informed actually means. Don't listen to those people. Even people I respect think that. They don't know what they're talking about. You've got to evaluate these things hardcore. And you have to stop getting excited about every new one you hear about. Because that's the game. I'm going to come up with a project. We're going to put this out. We're going to put good snazzy marketing behind it. Tell you why you should want to hold this currency. Since we're the ones that make it, we're mining it in advance, doing a pre-mine. Or just since we are the ones that launched it, we're mining it really heavily first. Or we're issuing it to ourselves in a proof of stake. We pump it way up. And then when you guys buy in, we sell it. And since we have no real vested cost in it, we make a fortune. And if it dies, it dies. I already got my money and moved it into Bitcoin. There's a lot of that shit going on. So just because something sounds snazzy, just because there's like 20 YouTubers talking about it in a row, like don't think that these companies are not slick. And I do want good marketing. But they'll reach out to like the 20 best well-known YouTubers in the crypto space and they'll give them a bunch of it and they'll say, hey, do an analysis for us and whatever. And they'll do that shit. It's got to have the first part. The utility of the token or the utility of the blockchain in a way that something doesn't already do it. Then you add the marketing. Then you add the dev, right? And I'm not talking about in the order that they do it. I'm talking about you and your mental evaluation. And then you have to ask, will anybody care? Prime example. I remember about 5 or 6 currencies that came out back in the heyday of ICOs. 2017. They were cryptos for the electrical market. And they would just say, the electrical market's an $80 trillion gazillion dollar market and we're going to run it. No, you're not. Why the hell would the electric company give a shit about your individual unique currency? Did you build a blockchain that somehow seamlessly integrates with their existing billing system? No. Then they don't give a shit. If TXU, right, or Encore or whatever, wants to take cryptocurrency, they can take Bitcoin, they can take Bitcoin Cash, they can take Litecoin, they can take anything the hell they want. If the electric companies, as big as they are, want an integrated crypto, they're going to build it for themselves. They're not going to go to you to get it. Ripple! Yeah, if the central banks want a cryptocurrency, they're not going to use Ripple. No, it's garbage. Don't be misled. Be a hardcore asshole. When you're asking these questions, just like I talked to you about earlier this week with real estate, you have to go Vulcan. You can't get emotional here. Logic and reason. And you better have a damn good reason. If you can't articulate the reason that you're putting your money into a crypto project, you probably shouldn't be doing it. With that, I'll be back next week with more episodes.